Good evening, everybody. Can you guys hear me okay? My kids tell me I have great lung capacity, so if you need me to increase my lung capacity, just give me a thumbs up. If you need me to turn it down, which my kids want me to do a lot of the times, let me know that with a thumbs down, please. Like Mary said, I'm so grateful to be here this evening. It's unfortunate that Jennifer is sick, but she has no voice, so therefore it would be really hard for her to talk with you this evening. So she sends her apologies and her regrets. I know I have some big shoes to fill with her program this evening, so my hope for you is that you walk away feeling a little bit more equipped, a little bit more validated, a little bit more heard with how we experience the holidays. It's been a wild, I'm just going to say a wild 2 years, because I feel like it might as well be 2 years when it's all said and done. And so first I want to just say how grateful I am that we're able to even convene in person and have this opportunity, because last year at this time, we were in a much different position. So thank you for coming out. Thank you for supporting these programs. I think while I love the virtual world and I think it has its benefits, I think we learn and get so much more out of seeing each other's faces, hearing each other's comments. We know we're not flying alone in this journey and in this world. So please do not hesitate to chime in, ask questions, make comments, share where you're comfortable sharing, because chances are if it's a question you have or a feeling you're feeling or an experience that you have, you're probably not alone. And it can often be helpful to hear that when we are amongst peers or individuals going through this. So I encourage you, the program is designed to be interactive. Let's have a discussion. I don't know when the last time I was able to have a deep, meaningful discussion, so please don't hesitate. In my other time, I also work as a care manager. So I work with families on a regular basis who are in the caregiving journey, and I work with them at all different levels. So I see you, I hear you, I can appreciate the different roles that you take on throughout your life, and being a caregiver is just yet another role. So with all of that being said, thank you for having me, and let's go ahead and get started, and please don't hesitate. We do have some worksheets tonight, so we'll do those in a couple of minutes, one at a time, not together. But again, this is for you to get out of what you want to. If you don't want to do the worksheets, don't do the worksheets. I won't be offended. It's totally okay. It's really for you to see kind of like a checkpoint for yourself with things, okay? So again, if anybody has trouble hearing me, just let me know. There is a microphone that I can utilize. Because it's being recorded, I usually tend to walk around. I'm going to try and stay put for the sake of the camera, and for those that might be watching it. So again, just to thank Brightview Senior Living Communities for the books that you have. This just goes over all the ones in this area. So we thank them for their continued support for the aging population and for the caregivers going along. So, when you see or we enter this world, when we start talking about the holiday season, does it feel like it starts earlier and earlier every year? I do too. And we were just talking about this. I have friends that start decorating as soon after Halloween as they can. I'm not that. That's not. I like to celebrate each holiday for what it is. Part of that too is to help me manage everything that comes along with the holidays, because in due time they're going to be here. So part of it is helping me to manage my stress level in that world. So when we have these holiday expectations versus reality, what are some experiences that triggers for you? Have you been in positions where the reality is different than what the expectations are? What are we asking of ourselves during the holidays? What is realistic of us to ask of the person that we're caring for or the groups that we're involved with? How do we remedy overdoing it? Expecting too much, getting little in return, and turning it inward on ourselves. Has anybody felt these feelings? Have you? If you want to elaborate, I welcome it, but I don't want to be pushy or nosy.
Well, I don't know. My husband has been sick for 2.5 years, and he gives me a list of things I need to do, and if I don't do it in this time frame, he gets upset. But I have other things I have to do also. That, I like Christmas cards, presents, cooking. All these other things, and he is not under really patient as far as understanding that I'll get to it, maybe not in your time frame.
So that lack of awareness on the part of the person we might be caring for can contribute to that. In addition to what we want to do and what we enjoy doing for the holidays. So let's say you enjoy doing Christmas cookies, and you do, I don't know how many people are doing that these days, but if you enjoy doing things, does that get reprioritized? Does that lose the place because of the expectations that our caregiver has? Is there something on our list that we enjoy doing that doesn't get done? And therefore we tend to feel hard on ourselves, disappointed that X, Y, and Z didn't get done. So we're going to learn and we're going to talk about the power of saying no, honoring the no to preserve the yes, and understanding and figuring out where some of these tasks might fall, okay? Because you need to be part of the equation. When we are a caregiver, and I will put myself in that category because I have a mother that lives very close by to me now, and so she is now someone who I am seeing routinely with and need to incorporate into my daily life and managing expectations. And my mom is somebody that says yes to everything. She's a yes person. How many people in here are yes people? Do we have yes people? It's okay, don't be shy. It's all right. It's okay to be a half yes person. I've learned that it's really important to say no, especially this time of year, so that the yeses we have mean that much more, that we take it into account, that we are giving ourselves permission. And when you're around a whole lot of yes people that have these expectations on you, it can feel very stressful and you can feel guilty because you're putting yourself into the equation. I'm here to tell you, if you're not putting yourself into the equation, you need to start. It's okay. You will be a better person for you. You will be a better caregiver for your loved one. They'll adjust. People do. It takes time. We have to put ourselves in this equation, especially during the holidays. Has anybody made any positive steps or changes in the last several years in setting some limits or boundaries to help manage your stress level? It's okay. Yeah?
I just have to drop certain things I used to do, like baking cookies. I used to like to bake cookies, but now I'm doing all the decorating, all the outside stuff, put it on the tree.
It's
Something's gotta give.
Something's got to give, just like in that movie. Something's got to give, right? So it's okay. And sometimes the hardest part is letting us be okay with it. Sometimes we're our own worst critic and our harshest against ourselves. People might be more forgiving than we give them credit for. We might think they're going to be disappointed. They're not going to understand. They might. Are we putting our own stuff on them and making assumptions on what they expect of us? Sometimes we have to have really uncomfortable conversations and say, I just can't. And you either accept it or you don't, but this is what I'm capable of doing. and maybe you start off small, and maybe you make it something that you don't think many people will be that upset about, but will be helpful to you. Any thoughts, experiences? Has anybody been met with resistance when you do try to set limits? It's hard, you know? The last thing we want to feel when we are a caregiver is like we are not fulfilling our roles and responsibilities. We want to please everybody, right? We have to please ourselves too. So dealing with holiday expectations, dealing with the realities, they can collide. And then we have the exact opposite outcome, where nobody's happy, everybody's stressed, everybody's worried, people get sick, and for what? So it's important and okay to examine, what is it that I expect of myself? What is it that I expect my loved one to be able to do, who I'm caring for? What is it that they expect of me? And how do we facilitate that discussion? But a lot of times this involves just holding a mirror up in front of yourself and looking really hard at what you can do and being okay with it. I think that's the part where we see a lot of individuals struggling, you know, is coming to grips or coming to terms with, I can't do it all. I think there was one movie where it's like, how does she do it all? Well, nobody can do it all, right? We need sleep, we need self-care, we need to eat, we need to enjoy ourselves. We're entitled to that as caregivers. You owe it to yourself. So part of it is when the holidays start, maybe make a list of what you love to do. A list of what you're kind of like, if I had to write down everything that I do over the holidays, how would I rate them? 1, 2, or 3. I enjoy it, it's kind of just there, I've always done it, or I really hate it. And so maybe you divide that list up and you say, oh wow, I do a lot. Let's do all the ones. Kind of meh about the 2s. You know, those Christmas cards. I am not a Christmas card person at all. Do you go digital? Is that easier? You know, what's a way to accomplish it with less stress and tax on an individual? You know, maybe you compromise and you enjoy making cookies, but make less. You know, so you're still getting the things done that you like, but you're altering it. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing situation. So we have our first worksheet. I want you, it's called, it's the Caregiving Feelings Worksheet. And all of these are actually in the book that you have. You're welcome to do them at any point in time. We just didn't want you to have to get the book written up or written in, okay? So I'm gonna give you more than 60 seconds. They say 60 seconds, Jen comes up with it because it's supposed to be your initial gut reaction, not overthinking. Do we have any overthinkers in here? I'm an overthinker. So what we want you to do is, I'll give you 2 minutes just because. Circle all the words that describe how you're each feeling today or during the past week. Don't think too hard. Yep. Oh, okay. Go with your gut feeling. Whatever sticks out to you. Okay, so the sheet of words, the list of words, there's 100 words total, 50 positive, 50 negative on the list. I want you to tally up, and you can keep it to yourself. It's your, this is for you. You're welcome to share, but you don't have to. Tally the number of positives, tally the number of negatives. And I don't really like to use the word negative, but for lack of a better way of saying it, for the not positive words. people, again, it's truly optional, how many people had more negative than positive? Okay, how many had more positive than negative? Okay, how many had pretty much down the middle, equal? Okay, that's good. So, was anybody surprised by their answers? Were you? I guess in a good way, since you had more positive. That's good. Why do you think that is, that you were surprised?
Because I think I left the negative feelings.
It's that rule of, oh, I think I'm out of the picture. I think it's that 80-20 rule, right? Where it's 20% of the bad stuff takes up 80% of your time. So if you have a job and you have a lot of difficult individuals that you work with, or you have a lot of hard tasks, it might only be one or two, but it can feel like it's the entire entity. And when you look at the totality in black and white, it can offer you perspective. So if you are on the more positive side, congratulations, that's when you need to kind of take a step back and maybe implement this tool or opportunity as just that, as a reminder, as a way to say, okay, it's not as bad as I was thinking. You know, and it's subjective, so depending on where you are on any given moment and what's happening, if you had caught me on Tuesday, it would have been all negative because of whatever was going on in my world. But that's normal. You know why? Because we're humans and we come with ebb and flow on how we feel. What's important to recognize is that when you look at something in black and white, it can become very concrete. You have evidence to remind you. It forces you to evaluate and look at it. So for the folks that had more negative, was anybody surprised by that? You were?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
No, presently, I'm not a caregiver.
Okay.
Presently now, but I'm a sounding board for my neighbor who is dealing with her husband.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so many of these things that has really stressed her to the max because he's the one that used to do everything for her. And now, you know, from the lights that go off at Christmas time, so he's not doing any of that. And each day, it's a decline for him. And this is more of a hurt or agitating, stressful, resentful. It's just so many. So I'm just like a sounding board for her with her husband.
She's very lucky to have you.
It is really very stressful for her.
It is. The holidays add that extra level, especially in a scenario where it's a role reversal of what you were doing versus what you now have to do or are expected to do. I imagine she's not all of that enthusiastic
Right.
about having to do all of those tasks. And that part of it is this is what gets done around the holidays. We put up lights. We do X, Y, and Z.
And plus, she's not getting much sleep because he's up all night long.
So there's the regular job of caregiving, and then the holiday expectations that you want to maintain because it's tradition, right? Is it okay to start new traditions? Is it easy? No. Is it important? Yes. And maybe you do it incrementally. Maybe you do it in stages where you used to do X, Y, and Z, so you do X and Y instead. And you learn to accept that and give yourself grace in the opportunity in preserving your yes by embracing the no or not now. However you want to phrase it for yourself. But when you have these lists of negatives, what you can associate with it is what's connected to each of these. So if you're feeling, sorry, I really need readers at this point. If you are feeling dejected, why. So you can take it to a next level. Because I missed somebody's holiday party, or I missed, getting together with friends like we normally do. Whatever the case may be, identify the feeling to an opportunity and see, can that be incorporated? Is there a way to turn that into an action item, if you will? What can you do? How can we phrase these words? How can we use these as an opportunity to grow, learn, shift perspective? Yes?
I was amazed. I had 3 times as many negative as positive.
So you were surprised for the negatives.
That it was that much.
Okay.
I knew it would be high, but I didn't think it would be 3 times as high as positive.
Okay, so what does that say to you?
That I'm stressed out and unhappy. Feeling stressed. My mother's been in assisted living for 6 years. So last year's Christmas was waving through a window.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people have the same thing. So this year I keep thinking, I've got to do everything and make Christmas wonderful because she can come to my house again.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got to do this and this and this and this and everything.
And looking at that is identifying, what does everything mean? What does it mean to you? What do you think it means to her? It's sometimes reminding ourselves that what we think somebody wants may in fact not be at all what they want. When we look at the identity, you're trying to figure out what quality of life means, right? Especially over this last year or 2, I think a lot of people's perspectives have changed. So what do I mean by that? I've seen people go in 2 different ways, where they've gone the route that gives them this level of stress 3 times more because they want to do that and then some and make up for that lost year, where it's going to be the best year it's ever been. That's your idea, okay? What if you asked your mom, what would your ideal holiday entail? You might be surprised. She might just be happy to be with you and spend time with you. So this pressure that we're putting on ourselves isn't necessarily the expectations that others might have of us. So I encourage you and I welcome you to take a step back and ask yourself, why am I making this such a big priority? Is it for me? Is it for my loved one? What feelings do I want to have at the end of the holiday season? I want to enjoy the day, right? We want to enjoy the time. And so you might find that perspectives have shifted on what matters. So it might not be the big elaborate meal. It might just be, sitting together, enjoying a good food, but not necessarily making yourself crazy in the process of doing it. Your mother's extremely lucky to have you care this much. But I'm sure if she knew how much stress you were under, she'd tell you to slow down. Maybe?
Maybe, but the other thing is, she basically tells me almost every time I see her that she wants to die.
So, there's adding insult to injury and the feelings associated with that, which is a lot to hear and a lot to handle over the holidays. So you bear a lot of our care, of the feelings of the people we are caring for, right? We take ownership of them. We feel responsible for their experiences because we're caring for them. It's hard to balance it out and remind yourself that you are not the end-all, be-all, and responsible for everything the person you're caring for feels. No one person can be solely responsible for the feelings of another person. It can be hard. I'm not trying to minimize it, but it's important to recognize we as humans can only do but so much. And that person that we're caring for has to have some ownership on the things they're saying and the expectations that they have. And it's not easy to always implement that, but it is okay to remind yourself that you're a human and you have limits. It's really hard during the holidays because you do want to do everything for everyone, but you have to do it for yourself too. Any other thoughts or questions about the lists or the words, or were you surprised or happy, or was it a reality check? So what I would encourage you to do is use this as a foundation. How can I change this? I want more positive. I want less negative. I'm going to do this again in 2 months. I'm going to work to get rid of some of these words. I'm going to work to get some of these words. So do it again. Set a goal for yourself. You know? It's no joke when they say self-care is a reality for the caregiver. You have to do it. And that is not selfish. So, if you're not a fan of the words, another way I like to check in with people that I work with during the holidays, during their caregiving journey, it's a really informal assessment. The world is filled with lots of assessments. We go everywhere and they ask you to do a lot of questions, a lot of this, a lot of that. I try to ask you, where do you fall? On a 0 to 100 scale, 0 being the most stressed, 100 being I have no stress, and let's face it, if somebody is ever at a 100, share the secret, right? Share it now. Where do you fall? Because when we just say I'm stressed, it's hard to capture that. What does that mean? It's going to be different for everybody, and it's going to be different depending on what's going on. I'm sure as I'm standing here, it's going to be different December 15th than it's going to be in, June 18th. For the obvious reasons. We have long, beautiful, sunny days in the summer. We have beautiful weather. We've got summer vibes going. There's no holidays. School might be in session. It depends on the county. It depends on what else is going on in your life. Now, holidays, cold, dark. Who's a fan of that? The older I get, the more I dislike it. The older I get, the more I realize I really like flip-flops. And I really like shorts and a t-shirt, much more. So where do you fall on this? Are you a 0 to a 30? Are you a 30 to a 70? Are you between a 70 and a 100? Using a grading system, we look at C as being the average, right? At least when I was in school, C was the average. Ideally, I want to see people saying 70 and above, as far as if the 100 means no stress. That's where I like to see people. I think it's realistic. Well, not the 100. I don't think anybody should ever be at a 100. I don't think that's right. I get worried when I see it down by 5s and 10s. And then we start having more conversations and asking the questions, what's going on today, in this moment, that's making you come up with that score, so that you can validate it, identify it, address it in that moment. Sometimes owning it, acknowledging it, puts it out there. You can feel a relief that it's been stated. Has anybody been in that situation where the minute you say it, you just feel a little bit of relief that it's off of your chest, that you're not holding it in? it makes it real, and that can be scary. But it puts it out there as a first step to identifying what it is so that you can then begin to work on it. And again, I would never ask somebody that's between a 0 and a 30 to get to a 70 or an 85. I mean, not unless every single thing falls into place. But what can we do to get you from a 20 to a 35 in this moment? What are things that are identifiable, that are achievable? What can be removed? What can be added? Who can help? It prompts the discussion of opening that door and finding out for your friend that's got the 10,000 tasks to do. Writing things down can be very helpful. I don't know, I remember when I bought my first house. I had to have this house. It was the most perfect little house, right? It's like 120 years old. I'll never do it again. I'll never buy an old house like that again. The house I had to have was a hot mess underneath everything, right? And I felt duped, and I felt stressed. And so I wrote a make-believe letter to the guy that we bought the house from, and I stuck it in my sock drawer. But I felt better after I wrote it because I got it out of my system. And sometimes just saying it, putting it on paper, seeing it, can be that foundation and a stepping stone to getting on past it. Identifying it, reaching out for support, saying, I'm having trouble with this. Can you help me with this? Do you know somebody that can help me with this? We also have to be mindful that we're not getting in our own way of getting the help we deserve and being stubborn and asking for the help that we want. Who likes to ask for help in here? Anybody? You like to, okay, so you like to ask for help? How many find it easy to do? Okay. So if you answered yes, that's amazing. Keep doing it. It's important. When people offer their help, what's that? It's okay. When people offer to help, I started trusting that if you're going to offer, I'm going to ask. And so trust that if people offer the assistance, they mean it. And if they don't, they'll figure out real quick not to offer it again. You know, especially as a caregiver, we tend to think that when people need help, they need help with those really concrete tasks, right? Of the actual hands-on caregiving. Oftentimes, that's not necessarily what relieves the stress. What relieves the stress can be some of those, all those little tasks that are out there that need to get done. You know, it can be as simple as going to the mailbox every day. I forget to go to my mailbox every day. I used to have a mailbox attached to my house. My dog bit my mail lady. We had to move the mailbox. So now, my mailbox is at the end of the walk, which you would think would be easy enough for me to walk and get. Do I do that every day? I sure don't. I sure don't. Walking my dog, you know, doing laundry, running to get errands. You know, there are things that people don't mind doing as far as support and assistance. Tap into that, utilize it. Again, trust that if somebody is offering, that they mean it. And if they don't, they won't ask again. Ask them what they want to help with. Get them their buy-in. They'll let you know. What I also suggest doing is writing down the things that you don't like to do. We talked about that in the beginning, the 1, 2s, and 3s. Things that you really would love for somebody else to do if you had the ultimate wish list. You never know. Even, you know, again, errands that pile up. Grass cutting, hanging up the lights during the holidays, taking the tree out to the curb, you know? All of these little things are not little around the holidays. So where do you fall? And what concrete steps can you make And sometimes, again, this involves having some conversations with people. And I talk with family members and I say, you have to say I in the sentence. You have to tell the person you're caring for where you stand. Because if you don't, they're never going to know. And sometimes it means you have to say it again and again, and you have to follow through. And it is okay. They'll adjust. We all do. So where are you on the scale? How can you get there? And again, doing these can be reminders and can be helpful with understanding your own boundaries. You know, because as caregivers, we need to have boundaries in place. How many struggle with that? Setting boundaries, yep. It's okay. You know why? Because you're human and you're caring for somebody. I say that all the time. You're human, but you're a person unto yourself, first and foremost. How do you want to feel during the holiday season? Right? We strive for jovial, festive, relaxed, happy. That's how we want to feel. So what can we do? Whoops. New clicker, sorry. So what do we do to help get us there? So we want to feel happy, we want to feel joy, we want to have more positive, we want to have less negative. What role are we playing in this? What do we mean by that? Are we our own worst enemies? Are we our harshest critics? Are we resistant to letting people help or resistant to change because we don't know what that would look like or what that would entail? And fear of the unknown is pretty normal. It's pretty natural, right? If it's a tradition, it's a tradition, it's a tradition. This is just the way we go. This is just what we do. Traditions can change. Look at it as an opportunity to start something new. So that brings us to the second worksheet about being a martyr. Martyr isn't the nicest terminology, but I think a lot more of us find ourselves being martyresque, not because we are trying to, but because it's just our tendency to say what? It's easier for me to do it myself, right? I know the way I want it. I don't want to take the time to explain it. I can just get it done myself. I'm guilty of that. I'm not a really patient person. And so sometimes I say, I'm just going to do it myself. I don't care, even if it puts me in a bad mood, because it'll take less time than explaining it, waiting for it, correcting it, and being dissatisfied. I'm not even giving myself the opportunity to let somebody try. Maybe I'll be surprised. So, I want you to take a look at this list. And without judgment, which is very difficult, I recognize, think about not the last 2 weeks, not the last 3 weeks, about the last 6 months. And circle everything you identify with or relate to. Okay, is everybody in a place? Okay, so sharing is optional. I know I keep saying that. Any surprises? Any surprises? Are we compromised? Yes.
Can you just say in a nutshell what it means if you have a high number?
Sure, I absolutely can. So each category has its own value. So basically, if you have high numbers in each category, meaning the max out, that means you are probably in as a martyr, because you're taking on everything in every area of being a caregiver. You're taking onus and responsibility for each aspect of things. So for example, if you circled 5 to 8 items, you're stressed out, but you're not quite in full-blown martyr, because you are allowing for some opportunities for self-care. You are allowing for some opportunities of respite, of a break, of balance in your life. Think about when caregivers are doing everything for everyone. It's too lopsided, right? It's weighted down. So there's no break in that role. There's no opportunity to pursue other avenues like spirituality, like socialization. So in some people's circumstances, they favor heavily in one area, but they retain freedoms and opportunities in other areas. So they're not quite in the throes of it. What worries us is when somebody is at the high end of this scale in every category, because it means that there's no balance. There's no break. Yes.
So, for example, I'm not, I have no financial investment because I'm each, but my physical, my relationship, my spiritual life are so not like that.
Yes, exactly. So what this does, it kind of breaks it down so you can see where you maybe want to refocus some of your energy, you know. And again, if they're all high in all of that, it's turning the mirror on yourself and saying, holy cow, I got to do something about this, you know. Like I said, it's easy to talk. Well, I don't want to say that. It's not easy to talk. Talking acknowledges it, seeing it in black and white puts it in your face. You can't scratch it out, right? I mean, I guess you could in theory if you don't want to acknowledge it, but in doing that, you've already kind of put yourself at the bottom of the list again. So seeing these things, doing these exercises, having these tools allows you, and when you see the consistency between the feelings that you feel, this program or this exercise, the groups of where do you fall, 0 to 30, 30 to this, 70 to 100, the priorities of the tasks or the ideas or the responsibilities that you have, and rating them as 1, 2s, and 3s. 1's being, I love to do this, I never want to stop doing it. 2's being, if somebody else could do this, I'd let them. Number 3, I just want to let it go, never to be seen again. I know I keep going back to your neighbor with the lights, but let's say the lights are just her, oh, I just hate it. And maybe that's me putting my own my own feelings about lights. Maybe she puts candles in and is satisfied by that. You know, it's owning it and being okay with it. And that's scary. And that's hard because we don't want to let people down. So we're going to start winding down because we're done at 7:30 and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. How do we get past this? What do we do? I'm big into writing things down, as you can tell. Remember the why. Why do you love the holidays? Why do you want to be with your loved ones? You can do remember the what. What is the priority? What matters most? But when you go back to the why, it prompts you to go back to what is quality of life for me? And how do I get there? So the why is right here. Then we sprout out. How are we going to make sure that we keep the why at the center? The why is right here. We want to hold on to the why we do it because we love our families, because we enjoy cooking, or whatever that why is, keep that at the forefront. If you can't derive joy or pleasure from it for yourself, maybe it doesn't need to be a part of that any longer. We evolve, right? We change. Why wouldn't the things that we engage in evolve and change along with us? It's not a bad thing. Sometimes we just need to reframe it positive. I live by this, and I think my mom doesn't appreciate it very much because she's a yes person and says yes to every invitation, no matter how tired or how this or how that, because you know why? It's nice that I was thought of. And it is. It's very nice to be thought of. But for the things that I really want to do, I have to say no to the things that I kind of feel meh about. And maybe I'll change my mind, and that no will turn into a yes. You don't know. But embracing the no to preserve the yes will make the yes that much sweeter, that much better. And that's what we want, right? Especially over the holidays. We want the things that we're doing to matter, to mean something, to be received and felt joy for. And if we're doing a lot of little things just for the sake of doing them, is it worth it? Where can we say no? It's okay. It's hard. You have to practice. Start with the small things. I also go back to certain aspects in the way I phrase it. I'm probably a little too liberal with this. Would I be offended if that person said no to me, or declined an invitation, or didn't want to participate in something? And if I wouldn't be offended or upset by it, I trust that they would feel the same way as well. You know? It's how I help to balance it out for myself. And I try to be diplomatic about it and polite and just say, I just can't right now. And I really appreciate it. Send a gift. Make a token. Drop something off. It is always nice to be thought of. That doesn't mean you have to do everything, because you're invited to everything. So, for now and beyond the holidays, give yourself permission to do a couple of things. Take a break. How many people take a break? Good. Doesn't have to be a huge monumental break. Take a walk. Take 5 minutes. Anybody meditate? Do the deep breathings? I try, I really do. I want to do it. Try, I'm getting better at it. It does help. It can make a difference. Take a break. Nothing's going to happen in that moment that you're taking a 5-minute break, a 2-minute break. Do it. Make yourself a priority. You are absolutely part of the equation. It doesn't work without you. It doesn't work without you. People don't remember that. They don't realize it, the people we're caring for often. It's just we're always there. Until we're not, because we haven't made ourselves a priority. You have permission to change your mind. Did you know that? You do. You can say yes and then say no. You can remind yourself that you got to embrace the no to say the yes. We're humans. We change our mind. Nothing wrong with that. Ask for support. No matter how big or how small, ask for support. People don't know what you need unless you tell them. People want to help more than you realize. We have to be willing to ask for it. Yes?
What if you don't know what you need? I mean, you know what I'm
I
saying?
do know. I know exactly what you're saying.
I don't know what I need. You know, people are always asking me what they can do and stuff, but I'm not sure that
So,
my husband would even want anybody to do anything. You understand what I'm saying?
so what I encourage encourage, if you're not sure where to ask for help, and I work with another agency, it's a volunteer, and especially with COVID, it's with families that are in dire needs, and we say, well, what do you need? They're like, I don't know, I need everything. And that might be how you feel. I don't know, I need help with everything. Write down what you do over the course of the day. Look at those tasks. Do that for a period of 1 to 3 days, or however long you want it to be. What are you doing on any given day that you're like, oh, I don't want to do that? Or somebody else could easily do that. It might not have anything to do with your husband, and everything to do with something that's going to alleviate some stress that you're experiencing. No, it might be as simple as, I need somebody to take a walk with me around the block. I need somebody to check my mail. I go back to mail because it's, obviously, I have trouble with my mail. You know, what are those little things that you kind of just find yourself, ugh, I wish I remembered too. So what do you do over the course of the day? And where can you edit that? Say no. We talked about it. Say no to preserve the yes. Feel your feelings. Don't feel bad about your feelings. Don't feel shame for being angry, upset, stressed out. Look at what you're doing. Look at what's going on. Feel the feelings. Crying can be very cathartic. I'm not sure if you know that. Sometimes when you feel the feelings and you get it out, you can finally exhale. If you've never had that level of exhale, I can't wait for you to be able to experience it. You'll know it when you have it. But part of it comes from doing all of these things so that you can make that final exhale. Be honest. Be angry. You know, you're a caregiver, but you're a human. And so the person you're caring for needs to understand that. It's okay. It's all a part of the process. Consider how you want to implement these, not just now, but in the future. What is one change you can make going ahead, and how can you build on that afterwards? Baby steps, right? Baby steps. Another one of my most favorite quotes, progress, not perfection, right? Don't strive for perfection. It's unachievable. You'll only be disappointed because we can't do it. We should always be learning. We should always be growing. We should be making progress. We are humans, we are flawed, and that is okay. As long as we don't let that take us down in the process and we embrace the progress we made. We might not be where we want to be, but we might not be where we started either. I want to thank Brightview again for sponsoring the books. I want to thank Mary for hosting this evening. I want to thank you. Oh, and I want to thank you guys. I appreciate it.